everyone, and welcome to the Wealthy's Digital Forum. This is the first panel of our 2021 program. Hope we saw many of you at the Wealthy's event in September. With us today is an outstanding panel of luminaries, all focused on advisor transitions. That's our topic today, is all about advisor transitions. Lots happening there. Clearly, seems like everyone's on the move. We've had a lot of different macro events that may impact some of that. So my goal here today, as your moderator, my name is Tim Welsh with Nexus Strategy, is to facilitate this panel. And first, to get started, I'm going to go around the horn here and introduce our panelists, have them say a few words about themselves. So, Kevin, let's start with you.
Sure. Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning, depending on where you are in your time zone. My name is Kevin Beard, Chief Growth Officer with Atria Wealth Solutions. I would say in charge of the M&A strategy as well as recruiting, and also spend some time on succession planning, helping our advisors with their continuity business planning. I'm happy and excited to be here, and Atria itself is 4 years old. I'd say we are the fastest growing broker-dealer according to Cerulli, and with that, we consider us more of a boutique firm with large firm capabilities. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Tim.
Well, it sounds like you're bringing on board advisors, so I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks, Kevin. Mark, please tell our audience a little about yourself.
Thanks, Tim, and good afternoon and good morning to everyone. This is Mark Butler from Skyence, and if you're not familiar with Skyence, we're a wealth tech company that has a platform that sometimes lives in the Salesforce ecosystem and sometimes lives outside of it. And we are here in this conversation really because we did a lot of research last year on advisor transitions and in turn developed a solution to automate it from start to finish. So look forward to the conversation. Thanks again, Tim, and fellow panelists.
Fantastic. Yes, technology is going to be a key theme today, I think. So with that, Kristen, tell the audience a little about yourself. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kristen Kimmel. I'm the Executive Vice President of Business Development with Advisor Group, one of the largest group of independent financial advisors. I'm thrilled to be here today, and thank you for having me.
Terrific. Another great platform for advisors thinking about transitions. So let's round it out. Frank, tell the audience about yourself and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the CEO of Elite Consulting Partners. We are a transition and consulting firm nationwide. We have roughly 35 consultants and team members around the country. What we do is really help advisors transition their goals and dreams into reality. And we really work with our clients from start to finish, from pre-move to post-move and into succession planning.
Outstanding. Dreams to reality. I love that theme. All right, let's get into it, everyone. So my first question, and I'll start with Kristen. What are the top themes you're seeing out there? Obviously, you're doing a big volume of advisor transitions. What's, from an advisor's point of view, what's critical these days? What's sort of top of mind when they're thinking about making a change?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in any advisor that's looking at making a change or that transition is really about understanding how quickly they can get back to servicing their clients, right? So minimizing that disruption that takes place when they make that transition. And I think that's where at Advisor Group, we really focus on assisting them, guiding them through that process, ensuring that it's a good experience for them, for their team, their support team, and as well as their clients. That's something that I think has been really important, where we're really seeing the benefit of that.
Great. Mark, you mentioned some technology research that you've done. What's anything here on that subject that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, and I think Kristen has it right. I mean, what is the experience? What are the unmet needs? And, one of the things that we found in our research is that advisors often don't want to transition to a new firm or a new custodian because it's hard to do. And the disruption with their clients gives them pause on doing that. And so, if the collective we in the industry can make that easier, it becomes easier for everyone. And advisors will then be in a better position to get to firms where their strengths and needs are better aligned with.
Fantastic. So Kevin, you're growing fast. What are you seeing in the volumes of advisors coming through? What's top of mind to them? How are you guys helping them out in terms of making that experience resonate?
Sure. Good question, Tim. I would say for us, it's really about the partnership. We've seen more advisors who are looking for a partnership with the firm. They're looking to have a relationship. That word is often overused by many broker dealers, I would say, but it is having that boutique feel with the large firm capabilities, looking at the next 10, 20 years of where their business growth is going and meeting their clients' needs and expectations. And, to what Kristen said too, I would say is also hand-holding them through that transition process, making sure that that it is a seamless experience. I mean, no advisor really wants to transition and make a broker-dealer move. And when they have to make a broker-dealer move, it's important for them that they find the right partner, that there's a plan in place holding their hand through that process. But long term, they made the move for the right reasons. And I often think about it, and I use this analogy a lot. Think of it like a marriage. And the last thing you want to do is get a divorce. And so we are looking at this as a long-term commitment. And we want to work with our advisors to continue to help build, grow, and again, meet their needs and client expectations.
Got it. So Frank, you do all of this great work for advisors. What stands out to you in terms of these themes? What's on top of mind of advisors? What are they telling you these days?
I would say that in terms of the transition component, I think that preparation, I know it sounds cliche, but preparation is key. Part of that preparation, and I'll use Kevin's analogy of on the marriage, we're going to go down the marriage track. We're like a really good counselor, right? In that we're going to help the advisor uncover what it is that they're really looking for, right? And why they're thinking about a transition, because you can make a transition, but if you're not paying attention to what you really want out of a transition, you're making a move just to make a move, and you're not really accomplishing your real goals. And I think that that's the biggest thing I worry about when I talk to an advisor and they're making a move and they're doing it on their own and they're talking to 15 different firms and they're getting all this information, and they're getting confused. They're not really focused on the goals, as I said, their dreams and goals. Why are they making the move, and what are they trying to accomplish after the move, right? They have to understand where they're going. So for me, I think preparation is really key. Messaging to their clients is really important. And finding the right firm is I know that sounds, again, it's basic, but finding the right firm is really, really important. And what I hear more than not from advisors is everyone sounds the same. They all have great culture. They all have great technology. Like, they all say the same thing. And that's a challenge. And I think that is true to some extent. And I think that firms that didn't have great technology a few years ago have stepped up, and that gap is narrowing. And I think that firms are really trying to find what's going to separate them from other firms, like Atria, like what's separating them from some of the other firms in the space, or advisor group, and the firms that are within the advisor group family, right? Why is one different than the other, right? Why is Royal Alliance different than Triad, or different than SagePoint, or and helping the advisor identify which firm is going to fit them is really what we love doing the most.
Yeah, very good. And we'll dig into some of those things. But before we get to that, I just have to ask. I mean, we've been through this fun time this last 18 months or so. So, Kevin, the pandemic, we can't get away from it. I mean, did it really change how you guys transition onboarded folks? Did more advisors want to move because they had time to think at night and not go outside anymore and say, hey, I need a change of pace? Or can you do it over Zoom? I know that's like 9 questions I just gave you, but if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving me the impact and volumes and so forth, and what's your take? And I'd love everyone's point of view on this. So we'll start with Kevin.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I think the pandemic changed the way advisors transition their business. I think it changed the recruiting environment altogether. We had a banner year last year, and I would say even then coming into the start of this year as well, because advisors did have more time to think about their broker-dealer partner. It also made them assess the technology needs of their broker-dealer, because it forced the manufacturers, it forced the broker-dealers, because you couldn't meet with your clients one-on-one, to look at alternatives of how to get in connection with your client. And I would say if you were at the forefront of technology, as I know I'm biased, and I think we are and definitely have that, it was having the digital signature. It was having the ability to, talk to your clients using mobile technology to speak and communicate with your clients. It changed the transition format where you couldn't meet with your clients. You probably weren't doing snail mail. And so it was looking at how can I get out effectively through digital communication to reach my clients. And so we saw that. We had successful transitions in 2020 and 21. And we also had to switch up the way we even meet with advisors. We went from an in-person home office visit, as I'm pretty sure everyone on this panel has, to more of a virtual home office visit, and creating the experience, showing the culture virtually to our advisors in that virtual environment, and letting them see what they have. And then it made it all that much sweeter when we were able to open up some travel to meet with advisors, when you did meet them one-on-one and have those conversations to say, everything that you guys have done, you've executed on the plan, and now meeting you in person, I'm so glad to do that. And, a lot of fist bumps, hugs, and so forth were given to each other. But, I do think it did change the way we recruit advisors, and it's opened up a new path for recruiting advisors and transitioning advisors in the future when we do return back to some semblance of normalcy.
Yeah. So, Kristen, did you really peel people out of their businesses via Zoom? And was that how it went, or how did it go?
Yeah, no, I think I'd elaborate a little bit on what Kevin said. I do think, answering some of the questions you threw out there, I think the pandemic really gave financial advisors the opportunity to sit back and evaluate that relationship, as both Frank and Kevin said as well, evaluate the relationship that they had with their wealth management firm, and then try to really sit back and think, is this where I want to be? Is this what I want to do? And am I running the practice that I want to? And that's where I think, really getting to the core, as Frank mentioned, of what is it that they're looking for? Are they looking for the ability to run their business as, a full entrepreneur with the autonomy to make all of the decisions? If so, maybe are they at the place where they can do that, or do they need to look at something else where they can do that, where they have that ability to do that? So that's where I think, like an advisor group, similar to as what Kevin said, we saw tremendous recruiting and transitions in 2020. We're seeing that again in 2021. And I do think a little bit of that is that independence, the ability to make the decisions for their practice when they can hire support staff, right? Where's the real estate? All of those things that were meaningful for them, to them, that maybe didn't have the time to sit back and pause. But I think getting to the second piece, the transitions over Zoom, it really forced the industry to look at how we've done transitions for many, many years, and really forced us to take a look at it and become much more efficient. So with that, you're seeing that transition happening faster, less disruption to the advisor, less disruptive to the client. So I think that's, one of the benefits, if I can even say it that way, that's one of the benefits that came out of it is we were able we were forced to make some of those changes a little bit quicker.
Yeah, it almost seems counterintuitive. So Frank, when you're working with clients and firms, what did you guys learn, or best practices, or what really sort of moved the needle for you during those last 18 months?
Yeah, we saw a 100% increase in our business from last year, and I think you can put it in two buckets, right? You can put it in the W-2 space, right? So W-2 transitions into independence, and independent to independent. So independent to RIA, but those two buckets. In the independent, what we saw was if an advisor was at I'll just say a marginal firm, right? A firm that they liked they were good people, right? But maybe the tech wasn't there, and there was no e-signature, and there was different things. The lack of support that those advisors that were independent were getting from their firms was much more glaring, right? And so it opened up their eyes to some of the economics, right? They look at the economics. When you're independent, you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and I have a saying that's all about the net. And so they start looking at that and understanding, is there value there? And if there isn't, I should look around. In the W-2 space, and the W-2 to 1099, it really gave advisors a lot of confidence to say that, I don't need, this huge office with a branch manager right down the hall, and operations people and a regional director and all these people taking from my comp, because I've had clients that have done this in the worst period of time, right, during the pandemic. Their AUM growth was hitting records because they realized, and I know advisors are, look, we're all type A. That's why we're in this business, right? But actually what it did was give them a lot more confidence on their relationship with their clients, and that they are really with them as the advisor, not the firm that they're at, not Merrill, Morgan, Wells, whatever it is. And it gave them a lot of confidence to go independent because effectively for 18 months, they were independent, right? They were independent working from home, but they were at a 42% payout. And so, I asked a question. I said, well, what's it like to be independent? And they're like, oh, I work for such and such firm. I'm like, yeah, no, but you're basically independent. You're just not getting paid that way. And I think that's what a lot of advisors saw. And that's why you see this huge uptick in transitions that I believe is still going to continue.
Great. That's a great point. I want to get to that. But before we do, so Mark, you're the tech guy here on the panel. Clearly, this pandemic changed everything in terms of how we get stuff done. What did you guys see? What sort of innovations are out there, particularly when a lot of this had to be done through technology? We couldn't just, bring a box of stuff and have people sign it. How'd that go?
Well, it was like Kevin and Kristen said, we had to figure out how to do it without the way we've done it traditionally. And, if you think about advisor transitions, it's a blizzard of paper. Traditionally, it's a lot of snail mail back and forth. And so what are the opportunities to automate that? You can't meet with clients in person. So, we looked at sort of the end to end from start to finish all the way through to, opening the accounts and then funding the accounts. And how do you automate all of the steps with that? And it forced firms to think through that. And I think for advisors, they got to see, did their firm have the mettle to get through it? And I think with Atria and with Advisor Group, they certainly did, and they came out of it looking great. But there's a lot of firms that struggled and couldn't come out of it strong. So I think it really put the spotlight on a process that, if you think about in our industry, has traditionally been one of the more manual, not digitally enabled processes. And it's forced us to think through solutions and workarounds to make it more digital.
Got it. So Frank, I want to come back to you because you kind of hit on that, my next question, which is all about volumes. We know that the movement to independence has been, going on for decades, but really from your point of view, what are advisors telling you? Any anecdotes you can share? You don't have to name names, but maybe just a glimpse into some of the minds and the thinking of the advisors who are making these changes and why the volumes went up so much.
Yeah, I think that when you look at, again, volume, well, I think firms are being more competitive, right? So as more firms are embracing technology, that gap between firms that embraced it years ago and firms that are just getting to it is narrowing. So I think firms are getting more, the economics come into play. So deals are getting more aggressive, both on the transition component, but also on the cost of doing business. One of the things that we spend a lot of time with our clients on, especially those coming from the W-2 space, is educating them on what it means to run the business, right? What it means to look at the bottom line and not focus on a firm that's waving a 95% payout at them, and then they're charging them nickel and diming them throughout the whole thing, and their net payout is 60%. So I think that they're more knowledgeable about that stuff, which is really important. But look, I think firms are getting aggressive. I'm not going to name names, but they're being aggressive right now. This time of the year, they're even more aggressive, which is not anything new. Kristen, you've been in that position for a long time too. We all know that this time of the year, firms sharpen their pencil a little bit more to hit numbers, AUM numbers and all that stuff. But the reality is, I think advisors as a whole, in both sides, W-2 and 1099, have gotten a lot smarter and educated themselves about what they should be getting from their firms and what it should cost them. I mean, and that includes going from independents to RIAs as well, right? Because as advisors that are independent have transitioned to largely fee-based practices, it brings RIAs into play that, where the economics get maybe a little bit better. So I just see this cycle. I think we have about 10 years of a lot of transitions ahead of us. The other thing is, quite honestly, and I'm not a market person, I'm not trying to time the market or anything like that, but if you've been in the business long enough, you understand that at some point this market is going to start to roll over a little bit, and advisors, want a top ticket to a degree, right? And they want to make a move when their practices have experienced exponential growth. And the good advisors that were branding, marketing, communicating to their clients throughout the last 18 months have experienced that exponential growth in AUM. And I think that they're smart to start taking a look around and getting the real value out of their business now.
Great. So, Kristen, is there a typical advisor, maybe you could describe him or her, who kind of went through this process and what's top of mind and any of these themes we've talked about? And you don't have to name names, but advisor in Ohio, for example, and kind of what was their thought process? We'd love to get into the mindset of what people are thinking.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I'll keep it really general. I think Frank hit on it really well when he said, it's advisors that had this opportunity while they were, working independently over the last 18 months that really had that chance to dig deep and look for what it is that they want. And so it really, really comes down to that. And so it really is advisors that are looking for something that maybe they thought they had and was really missing, and just giving them the flexibility, the autonomy to run their practice, to be the entrepreneurs. And I think, as he mentioned too, the market certainly has an impact in it, right? From a monetization of the business. And I think succession is another really big piece of that. That's something that we have seen a lot at Advisor Group, is advisors who are looking for, maybe it's time for them to transition their practice to somebody else. So matching them up with somebody who can carry on that business, who can carry on the service that has, a like mind, and can carry on the service to the clients that they're expecting.
Got it. So, Kevin, any examples from your experience the last 18 months for these volumes? Any personality types or one or two different things we could take a look at from your experience?
Yeah, sure. I was going to say that there's a few things. So for us, it's been that independent to independent move. We've also have had success with those advisors coming out of wirehouses seeking independence, either as a pure independent, what I'm meaning is started from, where do I open my office space, to building a brand for myself, or looking for that plug and play. We have that flexibility, again, meeting the advisor's expectations where they are, and giving them what they need to help build their business, be it a plug and play, being an independent, finding a branch to help them grow their business. And then, you talked about succession planning as well. We've also had a lot of success in matching advisors, both recruiting advisors in to buy practices, or vice versa, advisors looking to sell that have said, hey, I found a match in my town. You mentioned Ohio, where I'm from, and love Ohio. I could say that, there's an advisor in Cleveland, Ohio that is looking to sell his practice, and we have an existing branch or existing advisor here. We definitely would help them. And at the same time, if we were recruiting an advisor, somebody from another firm looking to sell his practice, we get introduced all the time of what I'm looking to sell, where can I find a match, and is trying to make those matches culturally that fits best for that advisor. And then lastly, I was going to say why we're seeing a lot of that momentum is advisors, I think have gotten smart. They're looking for the partnership. They're looking for state-of-the-art technology. They're looking for sophisticated products. But most importantly, I'm not looking to move in another 5 years. I'm looking at the next 10, 20 years, thinking more decade planning, and, what my broker-dealer can do for me. The famous John F. Kennedy quote, ask not what your country can do for you. I say, ask not what your broker-dealer can do for you. So that is kind of where I'm seeing advisors are transitioning and asking the right questions. I'm looking for a long-term partnership.
Great, fantastic answers. Love those anecdotes. They're very, very helpful to the audience. So Mark, the next question I have is all about technology. Did DocuSign, was that the magic sauce that made this all work, or were there CRM components? What did you see from the technology that really facilitated all these account moves?
Yeah, there were a couple things, Tim, but I'll touch on real quickly the volumes. If you look at the last 15 years, 2009 was the last year that there was a significant number of advisor transitions. And you think about the events in '08 leading up to '09. So there was a trigger there in 2009. And much like this year, there was a trigger last year that we talked a little bit about. So, these events are leading to lots of increases in volumes, certainly a lot more exposure to, I would say the firms that are the haves versus the have-nots. It's hard to hide these days without a world-class technology platform and great people to work with and great relationships, which Kevin and Kristen talked a little bit about. I think in terms of the technology, Tim, I think CRM certainly plays a role, though, as you know, when advisors transition, they need to be very careful about what data they have or are taking with them. But it's really about the end-to-end. DocuSign certainly plays a role in it, but think about the communication back and forth between an advisor and a client in the process of a transition. And so there's information the advisor needs to get from the client. Well, how do you do that digitally? How do you have a going back and forth between the advisor and the client? How do they collaborate and not necessarily just pass forms back and forth, but how are they collaborating in the same digital presence? So that's something we spent a lot of time figuring out. And then from a firm perspective, broker-dealer or custodian, how do you have a scorecard or a dashboard that tells you what's going on? How many accounts have been transitioned successfully? How many still need to be transitioned? Where are there issues where accounts might be hung up? That's another area that we found in our research. Advisors typically leave behind like 20% of their accounts, and some of it is just because the blizzard of paper, they might have a hard time notifying or getting in touch with a client. Maybe in some instances, they don't want to take that account with them. But one of our keys to success that we noted in our research was, how do advisors bring more accounts with them and not leave behind this average of 20%?
Fantastic. So Kristen, you guys have a big shop there. Would love any numbers you can share, like we're up 75,000% in terms of digital signatures, or how many accounts came over? Any numbers you can share? Or
I would love to share that number.
Yeah. All right, fire away. Let's hear it.
What I can share, and yeah, no, I wish I could share that number. That'd be a great number to say we were up 75,000%. No, what I can share is we are seeing, as similar to what Kevin said, kind of more of that consideration of moving to the independent space. So that has certainly increased. And the other thing that I would say has been a surprise, as Mark mentioned, the advisors tend to have some clients that stay behind, some that they didn't anticipate. But what has been a really nice surprise, and really being able to have the technology and the tools to showcase that there are assets that clients are moving when they have money in motion. So sometimes in cases you're seeing net new assets come in the transition as well. I want to say probably on average 25 to 30% of the time, which is pretty exciting from that perspective.
Great. So Kevin, any new tech tools from Atria that you guys have deployed that helped through this volume and this pandemic era? Any cool new tech?
Yeah, well, I say all of our technology is cool. I was just talking to our recruiting team today about our technology platform, which we call Unio, which means unification. The whole point of it is the tie-in, and just like, the computer or TV that you purchase is obsolete in the next 3 months or 6 months, give or take, or even as we see the iPhone that's replaced every year as new technology, that's what you want. It's a broker-dealer and a partnership that is constantly reinvesting in the business, reinvesting in the technology, and moving, I would say, with the times, because you don't want to be the firm that sat there and said, hey, we have the latest and greatest technology, and then 5 years from now, everything has passed you by. And so I feel where we are is, we are constantly looking at it, we're constantly updating it, and it stands alone on itself. And it is, again, a way for our clients to be unified with their clients, as well as to have all their data in one spot where they can work at it easy, move, and they can be anywhere in the country, or not even say anywhere in the world. I mean, we eat what we kill. We use Unio ourselves in the home office. And so, give you a good example. I was on vacation 2 years ago when we were traveling and so forth, and I was out in Europe. And, I was communicating with our advisors very easily and didn't miss a beat, and was able to work with them and, get up early in the morning, do what I needed to do, and get to my vacation. So I state as a point is, again, about the reinvestment in technology, not stopping, continuing to look and evolve and adapting to the new needs and expectations, because our clients and consumers are demanding a lot more from us. And I think, if I can just give a little bit of a diatribe here, I say this is the best time to be in this industry as an advisor, as a broker dealer, and even at, looking at it from the corporate side of the home office. I think this is exciting times, and this is the future for where our business is going. And most importantly, the end client is looking more importantly for that consumer guidance and where to, invest, where to plan for the future, retire, college planning, baby boomer planning, so forth, of what do I need to do here? So I think this is the perfect time to be in this industry. And again, it's about meeting the needs of the client expectations.
Yeah, very good. And couldn't agree more. This is a fantastic space to be. Getting some questions in from our audience. I want to encourage our audience. You can type it right into that chat box there and send it our way, and we'll do our best to get to them. But Frank, some of these are coming in, I'm sure you get this all the time, but what is it worth? Is it still 3 times trailing 12, or what are people paying, or what kind of commentary can you give us in terms of the economics? You mentioned that there's a lot more sharpening the pencils. What can you share with us on sort of those trends there and any numbers you want to throw out there?
Okay, nothing like putting me on the spot, right? We have that disclaimer.
You can be general if you want.
You don't have to, right? I'll get to that, but I just want to add one thing on the technology piece that I think that we're missing, and I've been in business for 25 years, so I remember transitioning my own book back in the 90s, and it was all paper. That's what clients wanted. I think the biggest innovation, if we can call it innovation in technology in this business, is the client's ability to use technology. Because years ago, if you sent a client an e-signature, like they didn't know how to get it. They didn't know where to go. They were uncomfortable with it. Like, I'm clicking this button, and who's going to find it? And I just send me the paperwork. And I think that piece of it, and COVID, in my opinion, brought that up, because they had to learn. Our older clients had to learn how to use technology more efficiently, and how to use technology. Period. Right. That includes social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, which helps advisors communicate their messaging when they're moving firms. So all of that goes into play. But in terms of, it's not about the money, but it's about the money, which is the saying that we have, right? I would say that deals on the wire side are getting aggressive again. You're typically seeing, and Kristen came from a good regional, but so she understands. They're still in that, all in anywhere between. Again, I'm going to be conservative here, but on the low end, 200, between 2 and 250, right? You're going to get 130%, 140% up front. Some firms are paying a little bit north of that. Some firms are being way, in my opinion, way too aggressive and paying 180%. But on the independent side, where I'm seeing the aggressive offers coming in is firms are really starting to pay on basis points on assets. Firms are really hungry for AUM, and they're giving anywhere between 20, 30, 40, 50 basis points on AUM. Some firms are still out there offering 20 to 40% on trailing 12, but really basis points, which shows me that firms really woke up, and I think wires are getting the same way, that it's all about assets, and they have to do whatever they can to bring over as many assets in bulk as they can, because no matter how good an individual advisor is, no matter how good they are, right, an individual advisor is only going to bring in so many assets in a given year, right? And so the best way to continue to grow your AUM, especially if you're a public company or you're owned by another firm, is to go out and recruit and buy AUM. On the succession planning component, obviously the higher the fee-based business that you have, the better the multiple. I'm seeing multiples for, I'll just call it, the majority of their business is fee. And I'm not talking about, C shares, L shares, where a lot of advisors view that as a fee. It's not. It's recurring revenue. It's different than advisory. They're anywhere between, for a good book of business on the low end, probably 4 to 5x. On the high end, 9 to 10x. And it's not like you're getting the money up front. There's components are money down, and there's earnouts, but they're getting aggressive. And I think the money that's out there that is putting up those big multiples, they look at the next 10 years, and they have 10 years to buy these books of businesses. There's a lot of advisors. The industry isn't getting any younger, right? We all know that. We're not getting any younger. And so they understand that there's an opportunity right now to go out and acquire practices, and they're willing to pay a premium right now for them. And that's why we're seeing the multiples that we are.
Great. So love it from our practitioners. Kevin, Kristen, any comments there on what the deals are or whatever you're seeing? You can be general. You don't have to be specific. So Kristen, we'll put you on the spot. What do you think?
Well, can I just back up for a second, though? I want to answer the technology question, because I think what Frank talked about was critical, and it played into the earlier question you had on transitions. And technology has become more important than ever in that transition process. And so, as you can see from my beautiful background, I'm actually in a conference center in Las Vegas. We had our large conference here where we were able to launch kind of our forward-looking vision of our technology, and it played in really well to the we're calling it express onboarding, which is that first part, just even the engagement with the financial advisor to make that piece even easier, that Frank talked about, getting to know the advisor, making sure that this is the right platform, helping them identify which is the right platform within the wealth management firms across advisor group. So I think that's a big piece, but then leading into what Mark talked about is that dashboard. How are you? How are things going? How are those asset transitions? That is really what's so critical. Where exactly are you in that space? And then moving that into that final platform that is the full business hub for the advisor to be able to see at a glance the health of their total their client base and be able to see it at one-stop shopping from that perspective. So I think that technology plays into it and is really, really critical in what individuals are considering, and that can really help them navigate through that disruption of a transition overall. But I think, Frank talked about the deals that he's seeing out there. I'm not going to get anything more specific than what he has his eyes across the entire market space.
That's totally fair. So Kevin, any of the last thoughts before we move on to the next topic? Got a few in from
I'll just say on the deals, I think when you're looking at Atria, our value prop stands alone. We are very competitive. We are very much in the marketplace when it comes to recruiting advisors. But, if you are only looking for the check, we are not that firm. But if you are looking for the firm that is going to be a partner, that's going to have state-of-the-art technology, that's going to give you products and sophistication, the relationships, so forth, and on top of that, we understand the transition and putting that transition plan in place, we can help you with that. And yes, we can help you with being competitive around the marketplace. On the succession planning of buying practices, Frank and I have to respectfully disagree on where the multiples are that you're seeing, because I think that's a little expensive in the independent space. Having did over 12 of them last year and done over 400 in the span of my career, I can tell you that I have not seen that move too much off the dial between an advisory practice to a commission-based practice. And I agree with you, recurring revenue is exactly how you described, but I know that's built into the multiples as well. But again, I think I'm seeing again in that acquisition of the practices, fee-based advisory practices going somewhere between 2 and 3 times, and commission-based practices being somewhere between 0.5 to 1.5. So for what it's worth, but I'm happy to talk to any of our panelists that are looking for a broker-dealer home, as I said, and we would love to be your partner and can talk to you greatly about how you can benefit being part of the Atria family.
Awesome. Well, I can tell this is an awesome subject. Go ahead, Frank. Jump in.
Yeah, Tim. Let me. I want to reiterate because I think you asked me a direct question about where are the deals, right? You didn't ask me my opinion about do deals matter.
Okay, great.
Because Kevin is correct, right? People have to understand that firms are putting out transition packages for a reason, and as I said earlier, what our job is to do is make sure that our clients fully understand the numbers, because the money's coming from somewhere, right? Many times it's coming from these underlying fees that the firm is going to get. They're going to get their money, right? We say there's only 100 cents in a dollar. So we work with a lot of firms like Atria, for instance, and some others that pay, and I'm not saying this is Atria, but that pay little to no money because their economics of running the actual business are significantly better. So we work on pro formas for our clients all the time, letting them, so they understand, is it a 2-year break even, 3-year break even, 4-year break even versus this other firm? Yeah, they're paying you a lot more money, but are they really the right fit for you for what you're looking for? Are they really going to be able to support what you say you want to do 5 and 10 years from now? And it shouldn't be about the money. I mean, money comes there, but money also has to do with what you make on an annual basis. Because if you're independent, you need to think like a business owner. And a business owner is all about the bottom line. And don't get enamored by a 50% transition bonus when their underlying costs and affiliation fees and tech charges and all that stuff are through the roof. And so I do believe what Kevin is saying is true. You need to look at those things. You need to look at the value add that a firm is giving you that is going to throw out a ton of money at you. Like, why do they have to do that? So I just wanted to make that point. That I am in agreement with Kevin on that one.
And I'll echo both of them on that one. I'll echo both of them on that one. All three of us are in agreement.
Just going to close off. Frank, I would just say, as I use that marriage analogy, he's the best marriage counselor, as well as your lawyer for having that prenup, because if your firm doesn't have that value prop, you will need that prenup.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Well, this is what makes a good panel is interaction and commentary. So feel free to dive in. Love it. So Mark, a couple of questions came in about the broker protocol and what data I should take or not take. What are you guys seeing if you're sort of in that process? And anybody else on the panel wants to jump in on, the protocol? A few questions from our audience about that.
Yeah, and we're taking the position that some of the sort of basic Christmas card data, if you will, even though from a regulatory standpoint, a lot of times that has kind of been considered off limits, that a lot of that information is publicly available. You can go to websites and find out, Tim, I can find your address, probably your last 2 addresses, your phone numbers. I can find a lot of basic information today that maybe 20 years ago I couldn't find. And so, the idea that advisors, and frankly, as you guys know, a lot of advisors have this information already in their cell phones. I mean, this is just, in some cases they're friends with their clients. And so we're actually in the process of going to the SEC for a no action letter that will allow advisors, firms, custodians using our solution to not be subject to some of those rules regarding what data is brought into the process. With that said, people still need to be careful. There are limitations to what is allowable, and I'm certainly not a compliance expert, but the point simply is, the world has changed, and information that may not have been publicly available 15 or 20 years ago is publicly available now, and the industry needs to change with it.
Great. We'd love to hear other commentary from our panelists. Kristen, Kevin, Frank, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll just jump in here for a second because I also play. I'm not an attorney, but I play one on TV, as Kevin said. I also get into that role. What I would say to anyone listening that is coming from either a protocol or non-protocol firm is follow the rules that the firm that you're going to asks you to follow. Where I see advisors get into trouble is they play games. I can do that. No one's going to find out. Assume that your firm that you're leaving is going to find out. It's easy enough to do, as Mark is saying. Like, the information is out there. Fastpeoplesearch.com or all the cell phone numbers, email addresses. It's all out there. There's no reason to, just take information that you're not supposed to take. Do it in a very methodical way. Even and a lot of firms will hire an attorney that represents the advisor. Depending on the size of your practice, I would also recommend you get your own attorney. Not that their attorneys aren't going to give you good advice, but if something should happen, their attorney, who they're paying, has to represent them, not you as the advisor. But the biggest thing is follow the rules. Like, don't try to be cute. I always tell my clients, don't try to be cute. It's not worth it. You'll get the information. You'll get the clients. Don't try to think that you can outsmart, Morgan Stanley or UBS, who's our non-protocol firms, right? They're going to find out. So that's my 2 pieces of information. And I'm not an attorney, but I'm on enough of these calls with clients and attorneys to know exactly what they're going to say.
Yeah, great. So Kevin, Kristen, any commentary there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you beat me to the unmute button, Frank. I agree with what Frank said. I mean, honestly, it is about making sure that you follow the rules and to his point, not try to do something cute or that piece of it. Because when you think about it, the part of the transition really is, as I said in the beginning, to minimize that disruption, right? And if that's the case, if something happens, if you do something that's outside of what is allowed or what is permitted, that disruption gets exponentially, can be months, can be even longer than that. So I think from that, I'm anxious to see the success that Mark has, but absolutely, I think the industry has some catching up to do because the information, to your point, is available in most cases publicly now. But in the meantime, we highly recommend and provide guidance to make sure that you adhere to bringing only what is allowed.
I echo the same sentiments. I just reading one of the questions here, so I would just say that it is following the rules, absolutely. When you're coming out of a W-2 firm, and if you are truly looking at going independent, we would be happy to talk to you. Let's look at your non-compete, your non-solicit. You're definitely going to want to have your own attorney on hand. Coming out of the independent space to an independent move, it's going to be looking at the privacy policy of the broker-dealer. And then I would say lastly is, as an independent broker-dealer, I want any advisor who's on this session to know that you own your data. At the end of the day, you own your data as an independent advisor. And with Atria, I want you to feel secure, and you can look us in the eye that is your data when you come here. That as an independent, those clients, but as a W-2, you definitely want to follow the rules. And I'm happy to talk offline to anyone who has a question about what they should and should not do and where they should go. And any attorneys, I do have some attorneys I'd be happy to refer you as well.
Yeah, so we got one more question here before we wrap it up. We're scheduled to stop 10 minutes to the hour, but I think we can keep going and break some rules. Why not? So a couple questions here around non-competes. You mentioned it sort of there, Kevin. Are they enforceable? I'm here in California and nothing's enforceable. So, I mean, what's sort of the latest on those things? And I'd love to hear from everybody, particularly if you are in California.
I'm not an attorney, so all I can say is, if you have a non-compete or non-solicit, we would be happy to look at it and can kind of tell you where and what you can and cannot do. But, that's something that each firm has different. Each firm has put their language into a non-compete, non-solicit. Everyone is going to be different. And even I know California, I know it's a working state and they talk about there is no non-solicit. Again, I would have to say I have to look at it. I can't just answer it off the fly here. And again, I'm not an attorney.
Okay, well, next time we'll get 7 attorneys for this panel. But so Kristen, what's your thought here?
You know what? It's the same thing. I think same thing. I know Frank plays an attorney, but for the rest of us, we have to bring them in when these types of situations arise, and just really, I think it's case by case. Take a look at it. Get the advice of legal counsel and ensure that you're adhering to it, and most importantly, that you fully understand what it is that's in place.
Got it. So Frank, any last minutes there, and then we'll have the panel wrap it up, starting with Mark.
Yeah, no, I think Kristen is spot on, and so is Mark, and so is Kevin, in that, you know, you have to really look at your individual agreement, because they're all different. You may have a buddy of yours that's in the next office that you're in, but he joined 6 years before you did, or 7 years before you did, and his language might be a little bit different than yours. And so you really need to look at those things and identify, you know, what you can do and what you can't do. The reality is, if it's done the right way, you know, what a firm can't do is dictate where a client can go and not go, right? No firm has figured that one out yet. So you just have to make sure that you follow the rules. And if your client decides to pick up the phone and call you because you left, you know, make sure if you have a garden leave and stuff like that, it's a little bit different, but you have to just make sure you understand those rules. That's also why I say, when we get into those things, that they have to have their own attorney representing them to look at their own contract, to get advice on what they can and cannot do. It's really important. The other piece that I get into discussions with clients about is, well, I owe my firm X amount of dollars, but I'm not going to pay them back the whole thing because they did X, Y, or Z to me. You know, they lied. What I tell advisors is, you need to assume if you owe the firm money back on a transition, on a transition deal, you need to make an assumption that you're going to pay every dollar back. Don't try to be cute. Don't think you're going to be some superpower negotiator and settle for 30 cents on the dollar. If you owe the money back, you're going to end up paying them back. And to Kristen's point, in terms of the succession of the transition and not making it complicated and arduous, getting in a legal fight with your ex firm and going to arbitration just muddies the water. You're probably getting money to go to the new firm. You're going to be happier. Ultimately, if it's the right firm, if you work with a firm like ours and we find you the right firm, maybe it's Atria, maybe it's an advisory group firm, you're probably never going to leave again. And to argue over $50,000, $100,000, or $200,000 is not worth it. What you're better off doing is trying to negotiate a repay back plan. So that's the piece of advice. I just see advisors get all worked up on that, and then they get pissed off that they couldn't negotiate down off of 100% of what they owed back, right? You took the money, you signed a deal, you're leaving early, you got to pay them back.
Great. Well, fantastic. Let's do a quick round robin. You know, we've covered a lot of ground, from the pandemic to technology to volumes to legal agreements, non-competes, deal structures. I mean, I don't know what else we could cover, but maybe future topic there. But let's start with Mark and just do a quick 30-second wrap up, what you takeaways from the session today, and kind of your final remarks for our audience. So we'll start with Mark and we'll go around the horn.
Yeah, this is really about driving better experiences for advisors and clients. And, as it relates to this topic, how do we make transitions easier? And, the technology is there in order to do it. And the payoff is huge, right? The technology is enabling something. And in this case, what it's enabling is the ability for advisors to transition with their clients more successfully, more easy, and faster, which for the folks here, especially Kevin and Kristen, that's important, right? They want to get those assets onto their platform as quickly as possible. And, I'll just share one anecdote. We worked with a firm and we have some statistics, some benchmarking statistics, but we did a time and motion study with them, and it took them 45 minutes to transition one account on average. And we showed them with our solution that it would take between 8 and 10 minutes. And so that's a huge payoff for everyone involved. And like I said, the technology is in a great position now to enable that.
Fantastic. So Kevin, any final remarks from you?
My final remark is to anybody who's watching this session, is do your due diligence. It's finding the right firm that their value prop stands on its own, that they can guide you through this process. And if you are watching this session, I'll say, I'm going to get a little nerdy. So you see Superman behind me here. I like Superman because he's got the S. The S means hope. And I want you to know that there is hope when you do make a transition, it will get better. And you made this transition, you got into this marriage for a reason. And, you know, when the honeymoon is over, it's going to be looking at it and say, I married and made the right choice and partner. And I'm in this for the next 20, 30, 40 years to life. So again, give me a call. Happy to talk to anyone here looking to make a broker-dealer change.
Great, fantastic. And I love the Superman. All right, Kristen, unfortunately, you don't have an office prop for us, so go for it.
I know if I was in my office, I would share something, but I had noticed the Superman early on, and I meant to ask you about that before we got started. No, I would say the same thing. I mean, anybody that's thinking about that transition, really just taking that moment to pause and reflect on that partnership that you're looking for and who you are. Are you a solo practitioner that's looking to join a team or to become an ensemble, or what does your model look like? And ensuring that you're establishing a partnership with a firm like Advisor Group that has the capabilities to support all of those. It has the multi-channel platforms, whether you're looking for independent, whether you're looking for RIA, multi-custodial, whatever that might be. But just, I think Frank said it right, stepping back, what is it you're looking for, finding that right partner, and then taking that next step, and then navigating that transition together, and then looking for that long-term growth that you can experience together overall. So as I'll follow up and say, anybody that's looking at that, I'm more than happy to have a conversation as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kristen. So Frank, bring us home. Any last thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so it was great that Kristen went right before me. One of the questions that I ask every one of our clients, and it's a little corny, but it gets them thinking, maybe that's a counselor part of me, and that is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? When you're looking at making a move, you have to think about what you want to be when you grow up. And it doesn't matter how big your practice is. If you can start to think about it that way, it'll help you identify what type of firm you need in order to help you achieve that kind of goal. The other thing I ask them is, if you're doing a search today and that your current firm was on the list of firms you were interested in exploring, would you choose them today? Right? Would you select them today to transition to? And if you wouldn't, right, well, then you have one big answer, and that is, I'm definitely going to leave. So you have to think about it that way. And then the third thing really is, there's no reason to go at it alone. This is my little pitch here, right? There's no reason to go at it alone and try to field all these calls and talk to multiple firms, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 firms, and get all this information, and all of a sudden the transition of your practice becomes your full-time job. That's what you don't want to do, because then your clients suffer, your revenue goes down. It just makes it a very daunting and stressful task, right? It's a little bit stressful making a move. Don't make it more stressful than it needs to be. So when you work with a firm like mine, we really help you through all of that stuff. We become the quarterback in helping you work through the process and due diligence process with firms like Advisor Group, with firms like Atria and others out there, to make sure that they are going to help you achieve the long-term goals that you want, so that once you make that move, to Kevin's point, once you get married to that firm, you don't ever have to worry about leaving again. That's our ultimate goal, is to find the right firm for our clients that they never have to leave ever again, because they've allowed them to grow into whatever it is they wanted to be when they grew up. So I'm happy to talk. Again, we work with everybody, and we love doing what we do.
Awesome. Thanks so much. What a great panel. You guys were fantastic. If we were in a big stadium right now, I'm hearing a big round of applause for everyone. But through the computer, we will have to just assume that's what they're doing right now. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this successful panel about the Wealthy's Digital Forum. Check back for more. And we want to thank you all for your attention, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.